Football is supposed to be a game of glory, of passion, and of course, last-minute goals. But every once in a while, something happens that silences the stadium, something that shakes even the toughest hearts. These are moments when time stood still, when players collapsed without warning, when fans screamed in fear, all while the cameras kept rolling. These are the darkest, scariest, most haunting moments in football history. Incidents were some that survived and some that didn't, but none of them will ever be forgotten. Number 1. Christian Eriksen's collapse in Euro 2020. It was supposed to be just another match where Denmark was facing Finland while fans were singing and waving flags. Nothing out of the ordinary until the 43rd minute. Christian Eriksen, Denmark's star and their heartbeat, was jogging near the sideline. No contact, no tackle, just silence, and then suddenly, he collapsed. At first, people thought he tripped, but something was wrong. His teammates ran to him, and what they saw up close was worse than anything they would ever see on a pitch. The collapse of Christian Eriksen. Simon Kjær dropped to his knees and started CPR while the referee screamed for medics, and the stadium fell silent. No chants, just prayers. For minutes, his heart stopped, and for those minutes, so did the world. Number 2, the Hillsborough disaster. It was the time when the stands turned into a trap. April 15th, 1989, a day meant for football glory. It was the FA Cup semi-final. Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest. Thousands of fans in red filled the Leppings Lane stand, packed shoulder to shoulder, but suddenly the gates opened. More fans charged in and funneled into a space that was already full. There were no phones, no alarms, just crushing bodies. And then came the screams. Unconscious people were being lifted above their heads, some were still shouting, and others couldn't breathe. 97 lives were lost, not from violence nor war, but from watching a football match. And what made it worse? For years, the truth was buried just like the fans who never came home. Number 3, death of Marc-Vivien Foé. It was a death that no one saw coming. June 26, 2003. The FIFA Confederations Cup semi-final. Cameroon versus Colombia. The game was tense, but Foé was everywhere, sprinting, tackling, and carrying his nation's hopes on his shoulders. Then, in the 72nd minute, he stopped. With no contact, no warning, he just collapsed. Nobody noticed it at first, and the play continued around him. But Foé wasn't moving. He was just lying there. The medics didn't waste a second in giving CPR, oxygen, and chest compressions. But something was wrong, and they couldn't bring him back. The news came minutes later, dead, at just 28 and in perfect health. And the world realized something terrifying. Even at the peak of strength, a heartbeat can just stop. Number 4, Antonio Puerta's death. It was a slow and silent death that nobody could stop. August 25th, 2007, Sevilla versus Getafe. Antonio Puerta, just 22, a rising star of Spanish football, was sprinting across the pitch. And without warning, he dropped face down on the turf. Teammates ran towards him, yelling for help, but then he stood up and walked off. It was such a relief for the stadium, and everyone thought it was over, but it wasn't. In the locker room, he collapsed again, then again, and 5 more times. Each time it was worse, and he was rushed to the hospital. He was fighting arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. 3 days later, he was gone, just dead after walking off the field. Fans left flowers, but they couldn't accept the fact that their star was gone. Puerta didn't just collapse once. He fought death, but it was death who won. Number 5, Eduardo da Silva's leg break. It was a tackle that silenced a nation. It was February 23, 2008, a match between Arsenal and Birmingham City. Yes, a match that barely began. Just 3 minutes in, Eduardo da Silva, Arsenal's rising striker, had the ball. He was dribbling fast with eyes locked on the goal. Then came Martin Taylor, a sliding tackle which was high and brutal. That's it, just a snap. Eduardo didn't scream. He didn't cry. He just lay there with his foot twisted 90 degrees the wrong way. His shin bone had shattered, poking through his sock. Even the referee's face turned pale. This wasn't a football injury. It was butchery. Doctors said it was a miracle he didn't lose the leg. But one thing was certain, that tackle didn't just break bones. It shattered the confidence of each player. Because from that day forward, every player knew 1 second, 1 tackle, and the game you love can destroy you. Number 6. The mysterious death of Andres Escobar. It was a goal that cost his life. It was a World Cup march. Colombia versus USA. The world was watching. But for Colombia, this wasn't just a game. It was survival. Back home, drug lords had placed bets. And then, in the 34th minute, it happened. A harmless cross came into the box. Andres Escobar slid to intercept, and he missed by inches, and the ball rolled almost in slow motion into his net. An own goal. USA 1, Colombia 0. Back home, television shattered, and Colombia was eliminated from the tournament. 10 days later, Escobar returned home, hoping to move on. He went out one night with friends. In the parking lot, a man approached him. They argued, and then came the gun. 6 shots at point blank. He died in the dark, all for a mistake. For a game. Number 7. Fabrice Muamba. Collapsing on the pitch? He was just gone. One moment, Fabrice Muamba was sprinting with full speed and full life. Next, his body hit the ground like it had been unplugged. Just a sudden collapse with his eyes frozen. Players stood still while the referees waved for medics. And behind that silence, no heartbeat. What followed was not a match. It was a battle between life and death. CPR on the pitch, and the doctors trying to restart a man like a broken machine. But nothing worked. For 78 minutes, Fabrice Muamba was clinically dead. No oxygen and no reason to come back. Yet somehow he did. But the miracle didn't erase what the stadium saw. A body, lifeless under stadium lights. Muamba lived for more than an hour. Death was playing the game. Number 8. The Bradford City Stadium fire. You're in the stands. 1 second, you're clapping. The next time you smell smoke. May 11th, 1985, Valley Parade Stadium. Bradford City were celebrating promotion, and it was supposed to be a day of joy. But in the 40th minute, everything changed. A small trail of smoke started to curl up from beneath the wooden stands. Maybe a cigarette, everyone thought, but within seconds the entire stand was on fire. People jumped to their feet while some screamed and others froze. It took just 4 minutes for the fire to swallow the entire stand. By the time the final flame died, 56 people were gone. Children, parents, friends, all burned or crushed in the chaos. The match was never finished, but those screams, the panic, and that desperation were all recorded, and the worst part? The exits were right there, but no one could reach them in time. Number 9. Emiliano Sala never landed. Cardiff fans waited at the airport with banners and a camera. A Premier League dream about to land, but the plane never came. No call, no update, just nothing. At first, it was confusing, then panic, and finally silence. Because somewhere between Nantes and Wales, Emiliano Sala had vanished. A rising star was gone without a trace. The small aircraft he boarded had disappeared over the English Channel with no distress signal or emergency message. For 2 weeks, the world hoped, until a wreck was found deep underwater. And inside it was Sala, still strapped to his seat. Just hours before the flight, Sala had sent a voice message. "I'm on a plane that feels like it's falling apart." He laughed, but you could hear the fear. He was supposed to arrive and begin a new chapter. Instead, his story ended in the cold Black Sea. Football isn't just about goals and glory. Sometimes it becomes something far darker. These weren't just matches, they were nightmares caught on camera, moments that shook the world and broke hearts. Now comes the real question: will you ever watch the game the same way again? Comment below. If this gives you chills, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories.